Hello, everyone. Welcome to today. Mm. Welcome to today's live stream pop up art studio here on Facebook. How is everyone doing? If you're out there and you've just started watching, say hi. I'd love to welcome you to the studio for today. And while we're on that, too, I had a great conversation with Rachel Cheney from the national network of art hives and Couple Milieu, which was one of the hives she founded. And we had such a great conversation about what it means to create a hive, a virtual hive, how you transfer what you do so organically and the other hive over to the virtual hive. So hello, Bee. Hey, how are you? Oh my goodness. I miss you. I was just thinking about our Instagram chat as well and how we kind of broke Instagram. It's when I learned that Instagram has a time limit when I was talking to you. Hello, Annie. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you doing? So, again, too, I'm going to invite the folks who are watching and taking part in this. Of course, if you'd like to simply watch or listen to us in the background, you are more than welcome to do so. You don't have to engage in an active or public way. I know sometimes it's just nice to keep things to yourself, to keep your art making private, and nice to have that kind of bubble of noise in the background burbling away. But for the folks who are chatting, who don't mind giving themselves a public presence here, if you do see people on the stream who have joined in or started watching and you would like to welcome them, please, please feel free. I'm not always able to see who joins. So it's really nice to know that just like at the Living Room Art Studio proper, when we're together here, that people will welcome one another and say hi to one another. If I'm at the back of the studio washing mugs or something and I don't happen to see someone come in. So this is like that, right? So thank you all. Thank you everyone who is here helping us hold space in this virtual place today as well. I'd like to check into about safe space. I know some of the folks I see listening are already familiar with the spiel, but if you're not, usually when you go into a hive, someone will welcome you, and when you come to the living room, we'll say hi, we'll introduce ourselves, give you a tour, and let you know what the space is all about. So, in the context of this virtual space, this is a place or a time where you can make art and hang out. I was going to say make and share art for free, but of course it's free because you're making art in your own homes. It's easy. You don't have to do complicated things. You don't have to do what I'm making. You can create your own thing in your own time. You can not make art if you don't want to. You can do what feels right for you. We just ask, and this counts everywhere, even in the virtual hive, that while you're here and participating, that you're supportive and encouraging of other people, and almost, if not more importantly, supportive and encouraging towards yourself. If that inner critic starts chatting at you and nagging you or saying not nice things, let us know. Hey, Shelley, welcome. Let someone in the community know. And all you got to do is, we've all got those inner critics. So just, say, I'm having a rough day. The critic's being really loud. And if you need some help talking back to that critic, we'll be here. We can help you do that. And again, I've got a choir of inner critics, so I know exactly what that's like. Yeah. Once upon a time, they might have been useful, but no. Sometimes they might have a little bit of something constructive to say, but most often, you just get in the way of me doing things. And to tell you the truth, my critics have been a little overactive today. What's the next thing? Oh, yeah. So at the studio as well as in the virtual space, I know everyone is in the comfort of their own homes, but if you are entering into this virtual hive, if you have been drinking or using, we're going to invite you to come back on another day when you haven't been. And really, that just helps us know that we can communicate effectively with everyone. Sometimes when someone's in an altered state, it's hard to know if we're understanding one another. Same thing goes in a virtual hive, right? No judgment at all. No judgment at all. But it's just one thing we invite you to consider when you're joining us here. And the last thing, which is the most important thing, if anything happens here in this virtual space that makes you feel uncomfortable or weird or not good, can you let me know right away? And if not me, let someone else know on the page so that we can reach out and we can connect. We can have that conversation, figure out what's going on, and teach one another how we can be more supportive of one another. Um, that's a really hard thing to do. That's creative humaning. And it's really difficult to do when you're not face to face. Sometimes, well, I don't know, who knows? Maybe that's something we can talk about today. The differences between communicating online and being really present with one another and real life, IRL, in real life, what those things are like. And maybe there's something we can learn from both of those experiences. I don't know. Oh, look, we got Sandra. Hello, Sandra. Oh, Sandra, it's so good to know you're there. It's so good to see you. How you doing? And Lisa. Lisa, how are you? Oh my goodness. It's look at all the lovely people we have joining us. I'm just going to have some coffee. Kelly. Oh, Kelly, how are you? Oh, Kelly, it's so great to see you're joining us as well. How is your knitting going? Yeah? I can't wait to catch up. So, again, throughout this whole thing, as I'm making whatever I'm making, feel free to share about what you're working on. If anything in particular is inspiring you these days, sometimes it's nice to check in with one another. Even though we may not be able to see one another, it's always good. Oh, well, Kelly. Kelly's saying I look good. Why, thank you, Kelly. Oh, that's very kind. You just, thank you. That was like a little prayer for the community that Kelly just gave. You know what? I think I'm a spiritual person. I'm not very religious, but I'll never say no to a prayer to any creator, all the creators. I think our positive or our encouraging, our loving, our kind, compassionate energy directed towards one another and ourselves, how can that be a bad thing? Yeah. I'm missing some awkward conversations too. Yeah, there we go. So Bee's put herself out there and said you can check in with Bee throughout this time if you need to. Oh wow, so Shelley and so it's interesting the flow of life during this time, people coming or going or being sort of stuck in a place and coming back. It seems like Shelley, you were staying with a friend for 2 months, but now you're back home again in Oshawa. Welcome back. Welcome back. And Christine. Hey. Hello, Christine. Oh, Sandra, thank you. It's sometimes people say it's good to hear my voice. That tells me we've been away from the studio for a long time. That's yeah, that says a lot. And Dan Walters, thanks for joining us today. Even though I know you're probably very busy, it's so good to know you're out there. Thanks for joining. Mm, yeah, good to be back. Oshawa again. I'll say it again. I'm super proud of Oshawa and how we've been working with one another and collaborating and supporting one another and just very respectful of all the processes involved on like for the like on the whole. It's been pretty amazing. Yeah. Yay Oshawa. Yay other places too, if you're watching in other places. Like I know Sandra, you're not in Oshawa these days, but um yeah. Love to everyone who's just taking their time to be present and supportive of themselves and other people. It's not always easy. Oh, Lori Nancy. Now I feel like I'm on Polka Dot Door, just saying people's names through that. Remember that mirror? Did anyone else watch Polka Dot Door? Oh, Lori Nancy just popping by to peek in. And well, hello, Lori Nancy. Lori Nancy will be, incidentally, our guest next Tuesday. So this coming Tuesday for our Instagram live stream chat. She was previously working on the show Come From Away, and now she's putting in some fabulous time with Sing Along Tim and her own creative processes. So I'm really looking forward to catching up with her next Tuesday and seeing how she's been doing and what she's been creating and how she's been coping. We've all had to dig deep and rediscover or discover new ways of keeping ourselves grounded during this time. So I'm always interested in learning more about that. Now, what am I going to do today, guys? Tell you, today was one of those days where I felt a little bit splat. Did anyone else have that experience? I found myself being inspired by a lot of different things and a lot of different mediums and materials. And at one point in time, I think I had it in my mind that I was going to be painting and drawing and sewing all in today's pop-up. Like, maybe not. Maybe that's too much. Ah, yes, Christine. These cool papers. This was part of it because some of these you might know, you might remember some of these. And bye, Lori Nancy. um, yeah, these some of these papers came from the studio from a few different workshops that we did there. So I had these powdered pigments, these like powdered ink dyes that we used for a few workshops. And I remember we were playing around with them during a workshop, and Christine did some really amazing just effects and prints on different papers. Some of these pages might actually be things that you did, Christine, that now I am going to include in what I'm calling, what am I calling it? I suppose it's a kind of gratitude journal. It's interesting in the conversation with Rochelle yesterday, we talked a lot about uh, noticing things and being mindful. I don't know if we called it that all the time, but just the opportunity, you know, sort of being forced to be still, forced to be in one location. When the world kind of closes in a little bit, that framework can sometimes provide you with a lot of other inspiration. Oh, yeah. This and so I've been one thing that's been happening when the world shrunk on me is I've been paying a little more attention to my environment, tending to some materials, discovering some things that I've had on hand for a long time but haven't known how to use, and these papers are one of them. So from Christine's hand to my house somehow, yeah, they've been here forever, and I today's the day. And this also speaks to a project that Sam, for some of you that know Samantha Willette, who's a volunteer at the studio, she is zine crazy. She loves making zines about all different kinds of topics. And I've been meaning to make a zine with her for a long time. We used to grab a coffee whenever there was time, and I'd start a zine and never finish a zine. So today I thought I want to be present with these materials, these bits and pieces I have on hand, and create a little booklet for myself. Just something really simple. I hope that you can use simple materials that you might have at home too. You can use plain bond paper if that's all you have. Cut up old brown paper bags. If you have any fabric, you might even be able to stitch together a book as well. Um, I love using old books. If you have any old books, even if they're, I was going to say telephone books, but I haven't seen one of those in a long time. But newspapers, things like that, wrapping paper, uh, anything can be turned into a journal or a zine. And sometimes those weird and wonderful bits and pieces make the most interesting zines. And the other thing, after the conversation with Rachel, just about finding, being able to appreciate the gifts that are given. Ah, hello, Laura. Welcome, Laura. You haven't missed much. We're in some of your territory here. Oh. So, Laura, so yes, today, for those of you who aren't in Oshawa, today we finally have a bit of sun that's come down upon us. So it's beautiful. It's still chilly and windy outside. But the temptation for those of you, if you want to be out gardening and you don't want to be here, that's okay too. But it sounds like Laura's had some interesting experiences with squirrels. Yeah, maybe you do need to just take a moment and relax. Just take a moment for you. Um, and what have you missed? Not much. We were talking about noticing things, kind of that mindfulness piece that is hopefully for a lot of us snuck in during this very strange and somewhat stressful time. Um, and part of the noticing being becoming familiar and finding stillness in your space and tending to things that maybe you haven't tended to in a long time, speaking for myself. And that can include everything from the pile of laundry I have to tidying up my office and discovering all these bits and pieces of paper that I want to turn into a project that I've always wanted to do and never had an opportunity to complete, a kind of zine or a gratitude journal. Um, yeah, the zines, they're a beautiful thing. I love the idea of self-publishing, but on a very, very, very DIY scale. You can get fancy. and print things, type things, photocopy things. But sometimes a good homemade zine is the best kind. And I don't know if I know exactly what's going to go in here. I say the word gratitude because I've again that mindfulness piece, that the gratitude thing is a little overwhelming, and sometimes I don't trust the word. I don't know if anyone else feels this way. Sometimes it can feel very overused in popular culture. For me, gratitude isn't necessarily about being happy, but it's letting that joy happen in your life, letting the delight happen. There's a there's a an interview slash podcast that I shared this morning, again from a poet. I think his name was Ross Gay, and just about discovering those moments of delight or letting them happen to you and being able to notice them when they're happening. Doesn't mean everything's wonderful and positive. In fact, it could be the worst. It could be the worst day you've had in a long time, but there are still little moments there that you can appreciate. There's still opportunities for things to be turned around within yourself, if not in the environment around you. And if we're not in a place where we can notice those moments, that's kind of sad, right? Oh, wow. So I'm just going to futz around and start folding a booklet and stitching papers together. That was a little bell. That makes me think of Cat Volcanus, her mindfulness bell. Did you guys hear that? Huh. Interesting. Oh, wow. We have some folks, Sandra working on a blanket and throw. Oh, that's lovely. It's just knowing that people are working on their own things out there as they're listening. How beautiful is that? We're creating together. And Courtney joining us, cleaning your room and listening. Fantastic. A good clean. I'm not one for cleaning. You guys, you've been to the studio. You know that. But I do, when I have the opportunity, it feels so good. I don't know why I don't do it more often. It's like washing your bed sheets. It feels so good. It's such a simple thing that can make a world of difference to go to sleep in clean sheets. But I don't do it every day, right? Jacqueline? Jacqueline! Oh my goodness. Oh, Jacqueline, how are you? How are you? It's been such a long time since I've seen your beautiful face. Welcome to the pop-up. It's so glad, it's fantastic to have you here. I hope you're doing well. I still have the beautiful little bag that you crocheted for me to keep my iPhone, because every time I put my phone down in the studio, I lose it. So thank you for that. And Lindsay, wow. Hey, how are you? What a beautiful, beautiful day. Look at all the wonderful, wonderful folks that are joining us. Yeah, let those moments be made, I was going to say be maybes. No, that's not what you mean. I guess when we're talking about the discovery of delight or joy in, or the simple pleasures and moments that can often be, otherwise be quite complicated. Yeah, it is just about being here now. Such a simple sounding thing, but can be super complicated. And B, I think I feel the same way. It's gratitude in a lot of ways, and it's nobody's fault. Maybe, oh, hey, look at that. Coffee filters that I painted a long time ago. Huh. The idea, the conversations we have about gratitude in culture, in our culture anyways, I can't speak for anyone else's, but oftentimes they feel kind of commodified. Like, buy this thing that will give you gratitude. Be grateful for the thing you just bought. Be grateful for the things you have. But I don't know. I think the idea of gratitude, it's something so personal to each and every individual. I can't imagine, I really can't, I mean, it must be so unique to each and every person. And Annie, good for you, taking a rest and watch and listen today. That sounds like an excellent idea. Everyone who's here and joining us, just a little recap. Just because I'm doing something doesn't mean that you have to do something, okay? You do what feels right for you. And if that is just listening while you clean your room, or, oh, hello. Did you guys hear that? I think Anthony's doing something upstairs in the, oh, that was a cat? There you go. cats. They happen. Um, just do what you need to do. That's the most important thing. If you're knitting or crocheting or collaging or gardening, whatever feels right. And maybe you don't want to do anything at all. That's okay too. That's taking time to be with yourself and make space for other creative things to emerge. That's something, to be frank, that I didn't do nearly as often as I should before this strange time happened to all of us. So that's definitely one thing that I've been able to feel a deep respect and gratitude for. Sometimes the universe gives us a giant shove. Sometimes it gives us a tiny nudge. But I think there's always opportunities to trust with that, what happens. Not that everything happens for a reason, because I don't really believe in that. But I do believe there are opportunities within every difficult time, within every challenge. Opportunities to discover things. And Jacqueline, I'm so glad you're doing good. Us and the dog on 4 walls. That doesn't sound so bad. I got 4 cats and a dog here. Yeah, hospital and home. For those folks out there who, that's again another thing to feel that sense of sometimes relief, sometimes gratitude, sometimes a recognition of my privilege, right? The fact that, there's a certain simplicity to my days, the decisions I have to make. And there are folks out there who deal with a lot of difficult things in their day to day, who do have to travel to the hospital or into situations where I can imagine that's really scary during these times, even with all the fantastic care and the precautions that our healthcare system are taking. Yeah, I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're well. Yeah. Well, Jacqueline, I'm going to share that with everyone too. Gratitude, that which fills our hearts and perhaps our eyes with tears, could be a person, an experience, or perhaps a thing. Yeah, you never know. It's what will strike that chord. Is it a feeling? Is it an energy? I don't know. What is gratitude, guys? And cats are wonderfully weird creatures. I am very grateful for my cats, even though sometimes I kind of want to. Why I don't want to have difficult thoughts about my cats today. Where is that coming from? I'm looking for a thing here. Where did that thing go? I had a thingamajig. Ah, there it is. And Judy. Welcome, Judy. Oh, it's great to see you too. Oh, well, that's lovely. Marshall and Judy can't wait for the doors to the studio to open again. I don't know when that'll be. And in fact, there's a new video coming out tomorrow all about that. Well, not all about that, just to give folks a little update about where things are at. We do want everyone to be safe. We need people to be safe. I'm not putting anyone at risk. And as much as I miss the lovely wonkiness of our studio and how amazing it was to see people come together and create together and all the lovely, wonderful, and weird and sometimes difficult things that would happen when we did come together, I'm not putting people at risk. Yeah. Yeah, it's because I feel like as long as we're still, well, even like Jacqueline was talking, was saying here, for folks who have to go to the hospital every day to get treatments that might be in average times a little bit stressful or worrisome, or, but all the same kind of routine. I don't know if that's fair to say, but during this time, I imagine that there's a lot of heightened fears and anxieties that can't help but trickle in. And I think about that in relation to the studio and opening up again. And I don't want to cause anyone to feel any kind of anxiety or stress about being in a space or not being unsure about the people that surround them, right? Oh, well, it's one of the reasons why we're doing the pop-up studio, right? These little bits and pieces here, and we hope to be doing more. We plan on doing more. Uh, well, I think the anxiety in ourselves, again, that sense of, there are folks out there who, attending the studio. I'm just going to take this thingamajiggy here and try piercing these. I might have stacked them too much. You can do the same thing with a sewing needle if you like. There's something that happens when we come together that maybe we took a little bit for granted before. I should probably measure the spacing of these holes that I'm making. I think, and you know what, this could be just be me, but I want, I wouldn't want any of us to have to worry or look to the person next to us to think, are they okay? Are they safe? Are they unwell? Are they contagious? Because I think that kind of that questioning is definitely something that, it can't help but take you out of the moment and away from what you're working on or enjoying something. That's, a bit of completely rational fear. And these are interesting times because I think in some ways there's an energy out there, or a few voices here and there that want us to take risks, more risks than we need to. They want to. Oh my goodness, you're not a very helpful pokey thing. I know you're a clay tool, aren't you? What you gonna do? I'm gonna use a needle instead. I feel like if any of us are scared or nervous or anxious about our physical well-being or health, on top of what we might already be dealing with, I question whether the studio can actually be of service to people. Do you know what I mean? Because it's something that, to a large extent, is beyond all of our control. It's just the way it is right now. And there's only so much that we can normalize. I think that only so much that, within reason, we can normalize about these times. I think prioritizing people's wellness as much as possible starts with inviting you to love yourself and love other people enough as well to know that it's, I don't know. These are complicated questions, difficult conversations. Because I think we miss what we had so much, right? So I can't pretend that that's an easy or nice or fun conversation. And yes, so Jacqueline and Shelley, until we can come together again in person, I really, we are looking for more ways to do things like this. And every Wednesday we will be here doing a live stream pop-up, Jacqueline, because there are people who live very far away as well, or have moved far away. And I love the fact that we can come together here and still chat with one another and check in and say hi. Oh. And maybe in the future as well, there'll be more revealed tomorrow in the video, but what the heck. We're building a studio, like an in-studio in our house, because we were getting a bit tired of setting up all this equipment to shoot these things. So we're actually getting a little serious about this. We really, really, really want to be able to give you guys as much as we possibly can with what we have. So we don't have a guest room anymore, which, to be fair, we hardly had guests anyways, and really it was the cat's room, so the cats might be a little upset with us for taking away their giant room. But we yeah, we're making a space that's dedicated to filming and to streaming and to creating content for everyone. Word content, it's so cold. But I, I don't want to feel like I have to rush out of this experience, out of this time. I don't want to feel forced to return to what was normal when I think normal has changed for a lot of people as that's natural. Normal has changed for all of us, the same as anyone who has something extreme happen to them, or you know yeah, that like any extreme change in your life, any diagnosis, any loss, any of those things, they do change things. um, Jacqueline, you are in an interesting place to comment on this, I think, more so than a lot of other folks. Yeah, a tricky scenario. On one hand, we don't want to discriminate against any of the studio community. Yeah. But we also have to consider the proximity to certain populations. Oh, this is interesting, that are statistically higher at risk. So the decision to reopen can't be taken lightly, for sure. Yeah. And it's, maybe now's the time I can actually give you an update about some of the other things I've been doing, because for any folks that have been to the studio, on any given day, you can see people coming in that you wouldn't otherwise, meet in certain circumstances. And that's one of the reasons I love the space, that we come together as artists, as humans, uh, and I don't have to explain who I am or what I deal with, or if I have a diagnosis or not, or, if I am living on the street, or, it doesn't really matter, right? We're just artists. And that can be said for anyone. I don't have to explain if I live in a mansion, or if I'm a professor, or if I'm a student, or a movie star. It could happen. We can just be creators in the same space together. And I think, though, there's and I don't know if this is what you mean, Jacqueline, but I think it could be, hey, Artemis. Oh, welcome. And again, I might know people's Facebook names. I don't always know their real names. If that's a beautiful name, Artemis. Oh my goodness, how lovely. I think there's, it's easy, and I think it's natural to be afraid. And I think there's certain people at the studio that who come to the studio on a regular basis who, in normal times, they don't necessarily live or exist in the same space that, so-called North American normal does. They may not watch the news every day. They may not have news to watch. They may, struggle with different things that we can't possibly relate to or imagine. They may not have the same access to, maintaining, again, that North American sense of what hygiene is, right? Those, for those folks who live that way, just for, the time being, due to circumstances or by choice or through extreme or altered states due to illness, it's not always easy to connect with them, to explain, or to enforce certain things. And it's not necessarily my job to tell them how to live, right? We welcome them into the space, and the expectations about how we work with one another, I think, are really important to be held up. But there's some people who, like, our lives, everyone's lives, each of our lives, there are so many different things where each of us is so different. And I think sometimes we make assumptions that we are more alike than we might be. Sometimes we make assumptions that we're more different than we might actually be. And I think that's where that anxiety comes in, because we might look at someone else and it's easy to make assumptions, or it's easy to make the leap in consciousness to be afraid if their nose is running, or if their child might be coughing. And during these times, I think all of that anxiety is a little more heightened. So placemaking is altered. How we connect with one another is altered, right? Hand washing, yeah, it's interesting. Like, it's a fascinating time. I was honored. It was such an amazing experience. I don't know if I talked about it last week. And you can tell that my brain is a little bit splatty today because I'm looking for a needle and I don't know where it is. I thought it would be in there, folks. Where is it? Usually I have a million things all around me at any given time. Nope. Last Thursday or Friday? Last Friday. Oh, hello, Anthony Granny. You've come in just the right time.
What do you need?
Could you get me the pair of jeans that I'm working on mending over there? That's a phrase I don't say. I didn't say that phrase very much before pandemic times. Me mending things. Yes, there should be a needle in there somewhere, so be careful. Ah, excellent. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Anthony Granny, everyone. Anthony Granny.
Love you all.
So, yes. I had the honor and the privilege to go on a tour of the Backdoor Mission last Friday. So for folks who don't live in Oshawa, who aren't familiar with Oshawa, the mission is one of those fantastic resources that's available for shelter-involved or street-involved individuals, insecurely housed individuals, and he's already gone. I'll let him know people were saying hello. He'll be so happy. And during this time, of course, when we think about vulnerable populations, I think there's nothing much more vulnerable than not having a place to stay, than not having anyone you can really turn to or talk to or connect with, not having a source of reliable news or anything else, anything reliable. The inconsistencies for a lot of folks right now who are living insecurely, I suppose we could say it for that way for now. It's for real, right? Entirely vulnerable. So I think when we talk about vulnerable populations, that is one that jumps into my mind. Of course, there are many others who are vulnerable as well. But the mission found itself in a really interesting place because a lot of the services who support folks who are street involved, they, like the LivingRoom, don't have the capacity to really, they weren't able to make the same kind of changes at the pace that they were expected to make them when everything shut down, when everyone was invited or ordered to stay at home. And they're also spread out. So basically what ended up happening, and I don't know how exactly it happened, but this is what I see happening, what I saw happen, was the mission became a center point for all these other agencies and resources. So instead of dividing the resources up between all these different locations, they focused them in one area, one center, and they were able to deliver support and services to people very quickly and very efficiently. It took a lot of work, and Councillor Guyberson has literally been working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day for the last 3 months to make this happen. But as a result, they've created what they're calling Mission United. And this is a service that is helping many different people in many different ways. So the satellite agencies, as soon as they were able, began to send people into work. So it wasn't just what the mission would have provided before, which was a lot, but food, clothing, things like that, sort of that community connection for a lot of folks. Now there is that, but there is also, there's social workers, there's folks from CMHA, there are doctors, there are nurses, there's even a room dedicated to sleeping. So you can go in without any fear of judgment, and someone will greet you and say, would you like a rest? And you can say, yeah, and you can have a nap. Hello, Patrick. That, I think, when I was on the tour, that was the thing that was the most moving to me, actually, seeing a room, a beautiful kind of gymnasium space with beds, things, cots spaced nicely apart, lower lights, people there to be there to take care of you, to witness, to watch, to make sure nothing happens to your stuff, but just a place for you to sleep. Because that's one thing. That's one, speaking of taking things for granted, the ability to sleep and not worry about your safety or your life, or that your belongings will be there when you wake up in the morning. For folks who sleep rough, you don't get much sleep. right? And this simple thing allows them that. But anyways, the tour of the space was incredible. They've been able to do things there that the community have actually been wanting for a very, very long time. And again, another moment to appreciate, another sort of gratitude moment, I suppose, out of these dark and strange times that this has happened. It might have taken years for something like that to happen before. Yeah, a warm, calm place to sleep. It's something, yeah, I take that for granted, right? Uh, but anyways, I could go on about what I saw forever and ever and ever. Why did I start talking about this in the first place? Just the concerns, the fears, the worries, the assumptions we make. Um, when I was there on the property in the place, of course, people come in, they're wearing masks, they get screened right away. It was actually not having been to any sort of wellness or health agencies. I hadn't been officially screened before, so walking in was the first time that I'd been screened during this whole time, and it was intense. It was really interesting. Um, but what we're seeing, I think, and again, knock on wood, is that they've been able to manage and maintain and keep people safe, keep people healthy. Um, and as far as I know, and I could be wrong, I don't believe uh, I don't believe they've lost any of their population to COVID so far. And in fact, people are being quite respectful and utilizing the services in such a beautiful way. I hope after this passes that Mission United can stay. I hope that it can remain a fantastic resource for the community. It also provides us with, I keep picking up my coffee and not drinking it. It's exactly like the studio, guys. Will I finish this scene or not? We shall find out. Ah, Patrick, you don't take sleep for granted because you have insomnia. Yep. For anyone who's ever struggled with sleeping or had it taken away from you for various reasons, yeah, it is something to be loved. I am wondering, I might just stitch this together, guys. I'm just going to do this. Or else I'll just keep futzing around with, I'll add in those papers after. But yes, Mission United. So one of the things I saw were that people were healthy. Healthy, still struggling with a lot of the things that they might normally struggle with. You know, if you're, if if you're street involved, and for example, the population, if you're living on the street, your chances are you're walking around a lot during the day. Even if you do have a shelter, a lot of shelters won't. They have to kind of ask you to leave at a certain point. Let's see if I can remember what I'm doing here with my stitching. So for a lot of folks, there's a lot of issues with feet. Of course, there's issues with health, with any of the coping kind of things that people might do or lean on. So that can involve addiction, to deal with, living rough, or, feeling so anxious all the time. It could also involve the different traumas they've experienced throughout their lives. There might be other things as well, like so many things. We're just human, right? But what I did see there was such a beautiful way of engaging with folks. Clean, yeah, it was fantastic. And keeping in line with all of the guidelines that the government has asked businesses to keep in line with. It made me really appreciate, again, being a part of this community. It also made me reflect back on the capacity of the living room right now, and the fact that we might not be able to offer that same kind of system. We might not be able to stay on top of things in the same way. Again, these are strange times. Not everything needs to be normalized, and not everything will be the same when we come out of it. So I'm just doing like a running stitch backwards and back and forth across the spine of my little mini book here. I'm using a slightly stronger thread. I'm using a denim thread. It's just a little bit thicker. So in short, Why did I start on this rant in the first place? I'm grateful for the individuals and the services out there who are able to take care of all of us during this time. I am incredibly grateful that there are people out there who have the capacity and the vision to recognize that big things need to happen to deal with issues we've taken for granted or let get out of hand in the past, to meet the needs and be there for people who've fallen through the cracks, right? And I recognize, and I need to recognize, that we might not be able, well, we're not at a place right now, anyways, to be able to do those things at the studio. Not yet. So it's going to take a while yet. It's going to be a while yet before we can open up. So things like this will be happening a lot more, which is also comes with its own loveliness, right? We've always wanted to explore creating opportunities like this, and making content, and being able to connect with communities in a new way, expanding what the idea of community means. Really, it's not only about the people you see every day face to face. So this has given us an opportunity to explore that in a deeper way. It kind of foisted it upon us. Is that a word? Foisted it? Yeah. And I'm glad. I'm a little bit glad that it did. Again, that nudge from the universe. And I'm going to take my time. I'm going to listen to the universe, or whatever you want to call it, to really understand as much as I possibly can what's happening right now and what it means, and how, when so much seems to be out of one's control and there's a lot of things we can't do, I want to focus on what we can do, right? There are other amazing organizations out there. So I've been going on and on about Mission United and all the agencies that are working through them. The AIDS Committee of Durham Region, Durham Mental Health Services, they're all there right now. They all have some, like the community partnerships that are there right now, they're providing services for people. They can connect in safe and manageable ways. And a one-stop shop. It's amazing. But there are folks, out there who are gathering food and things like that, personalized care packages. So the love is for everyone organization. Yeah, I don't, to tell you the truth, Jacqueline, I don't know a whole lot about those folks. I hope they're okay. I hope they're doing things. I hope they're able to like manage things and stay safe and do share and deliver these supplies safely. And it's also about the appearances of things as well, to be honest, right? We need to be able to model that behavior for one another. It's kind of a community solidarity within wellness, I think. Oh my God, this is the farthest I've gotten on creating a book in a long, long time, guys. Whoo! Yeah, and the demand has it's increased recently, right? You're saying, so Jacqueline's saying your church historically visited approximately 100 families to provide food hampers and grocery vouchers. In the last 3 months, that has grown to over 350 families. So we see what's happening. And we know the need was there to begin with beforehand as well. It's one of those complicated aspects of living in this kind of society. It's also, there's so much. This is a whole other conversation for a whole other show about what happens when cities gentrify, when, just the different demands and strains on the systems that used to be able to provide us with things that aren't able to provide those things to us in the same way. And the recognition of people's abilities. And I think, yeah, oh wow. So Patrick's also saying food prices are rising in the US. And that's another interesting element as well. I don't know if it's the same in the States. We've had, I think one of the reasons food has always been fairly affordable, and that's saying a lot. Um, but in many ways, food is much cheaper than it actually should be for for us here in Canada, at least, because of subsidies and things like that that are often provided to different marketplaces. It makes, I think there's a certain appreciation of what we had before again and what we take for granted. Um, yeah, it's interesting. And the prices of food rising does not help. Access to food. I don't know if what where you live, Patrick, if it's the same, but in Oshawa here, there are many areas of the city that are food deserts, which I think I imagine it also contributes to that the access to food and those families and individuals who need to rely on food security services. If you don't have a grocery store nearby, you're buying food at convenience stores or fast food restaurants. And as we know, those businesses have really been affected during this time in particular. So there are people who cannot get to grocery stores now, even if they wanted to, even if they had the money to be able to purchase what they would normally purchase. Ah, yes. Oh, that's good. Yeah, so organizations working with one another to meet the needs, provide services, and do it in safe ways. That's a beautiful thing. Ah, here's a little found poem. Now, these papers here, some of them were made, like I was mentioning early on, with some of those pigment ink powders that you can splash. They're just like lovely bright powders. They're not even, you don't even know what they're going to look like. And you add water, and suddenly whew, the color comes alive. And so some of these are pages that absorbed the ink from other pieces we were working on. Some of them were back, the pages underneath to catch the splatter. This piece here is a jelly plate piece. So I think I will be working. I'm almost ready to pull out the jelly plates, folks, and work with you with those. Um, Again, it's a special kind of tool, so not everyone might have it, but jelly plates are these fabulous rubbery things that allow you to layer on paint and do monoprints. And I just love creating colorful surfaces for other things that I do, for other pieces that I do, and kind of stockpiling all this fabulous paper that I can integrate into other projects, like today, finally integrating it into a journal. There's some cutout poetry there at the top from an old book. Paused inside the door, knew of the truth of the situation. You can take a wild dream and gaze lifted, tentatively, discover new lands far beyond. Oh, that's not so bad, actually. That's not, I like that. I'll take that. I think that's a perfect cover piece for my little book. I mean, no matter where we live right now, that's the really interesting piece. No matter where we're living, we are all affected by this. This is all, you know, we're all coping. We're all doing our best. And some of us have more support than others. Some of us have more privilege than others. Some of us have better leadership than others. We still need to make do with what we have. And that's where community can come into place, whether it's a virtual community or the community that provides services to those who otherwise wouldn't have services. We do what we can with what we have. I had a moment the other day where we'd ordered a few pieces of equipment that we needed for some of the projects we're going to be working on for you folks. And I had to call into somewhere to check on, I can't remember what it was actually, but I ended up talking to someone working in a call center. And I had this moment talking to someone where I realized that they probably weren't living in Oshawa or working in Oshawa. And I was talking to someone who lived very far away. And yet we were both probably most likely being impacted by this. And for the first time ever, and I'm kind of ashamed to say this, but for the first time ever, I just took a moment at the end of the call to to ask them how they were doing. And it was just, a few like beautiful minutes of chatting with someone that I'd never met before, who was in a completely different part of the world. And yet we had this bridge between us that hadn't been available before, just to check in. I had no answers for them. I don't know the specifics of what's going on, where they're at, but we could both relate to one another as human beings in a new way. Now, it's not that that's a new thing, that was always there. But something about what's happening right now has, at least for myself, caused me to really reflect on that and take action on it, I suppose. To take those opportunities to connect and check in with people. And it was really lovely. So I don't know if anyone out there, if you have opportunities, if you're talking with people at call centers, take a moment to check in and see how they're doing. They might appreciate it a whole lot. I don't know if any of you out there have ever worked in a call center before. I've worked for a market research company before. That was an interesting job. So there we go. Kristen, hello. It's so good to see you there. See, there's people watching and I don't always know you're watching. You don't have to say anything again. You're more than welcome to just do your thing silently, quietly in your own space. But if you would like to say hi, I like it. And I'm sure other people do too. Laura's saying that she's had a few of those talks as well. What did you find, Laura? Is that, well, Laura, it wouldn't surprise me if you normally do that. Even in average, old and normal times. You strike me as a person who would go out of their way to say hello and let someone know that you were thinking of them, even if you'd never met them before, if you don't mind me saying. Lori Nancy Kalamansky, you're still there? That's awesome. See, that's something I'm grateful for. There are a few folks in the world who's just saying their names or saying certain things make me happy. Saying Lori Nancy Kalamansky. If any of you want to feel good, this would be a nice little fun kind of mindfulness piece. Just say to yourself in the middle of a day, similar to Ollie. I don't know if Ollie's watching this week with Danny, but after last week, I kept saying bananas. Whenever I was feeling low, I would just suddenly say bananas, and I felt so much better. Saying Lori Nancy's name, Lori Nancy Kalamansky, is also something that makes me feel really good. It's just a beautiful thing to say. I don't know. Oh, yeah, I agree, B. It is so nice to see so many people popping in and saying hello. And again, if you're seeing people dropping by that I'm not, check in, say hi. Just imagine that I'm washing mugs at the back of the studio and I'm not able to catch everyone as they come in. Feel free to greet one another and check in. And yes, B, I did see the thing, found poetry or cut out poetry. I think we might do something about that as well. It's another part of that collage world that I love that just makes it a little bit easier to create. Takes a little bit of the stress off your brain to come up with all the ideas yourself, even though you kind of are. Banana hammock, sorry. Patrick, yeah, that's a good one as well. Lori Nancy has a fabulous name, but she's also an awesome human being, like everyone here. So I have no issues at all. Encouraging people to say her name to make themselves feel good. That might be a little weird. Lori Nancy, if you're weirded out by that, just let me know. Yeah? Another thing that I find brings me a kind of peace was I was first introduced to by my friends Mark Huseman and Claire. Mark and Claire, apparently there's a beautiful little thing whenever they would feel anxious or stressed out. And I can't remember the context of how they introduced it to me, but I got my moments of stress. Anyone who's met me knows that. They say teacup and saucer. Teacup and saucer. And it's something that just, I took that with me. I'm like, it just makes me feel lifted a little bit. So if I'm feeling really in the weeds, I just say teacup, teacup and saucer. And it suddenly just lifts me up a little bit, relaxes me a little bit. Oh, and Lori Nan, speaking of names, so did you say, oh, did you say you got teased? Teased? Oh, people teased you when you were little with that? Oh, no, 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 no. I would have words with them. But I suppose that's one of the things that happens to a lot of us. I can tell you Cronert wasn't necessarily a name that everyone appreciated. I've been called many different versions. Conehead, Conert. I mean, it's fine. Like I say at the studio, I respond to anything. I'm okay with it now. But when you're younger, it's hard. Ah, Lori Nancy. Oh, Lori Nancy throwing that out there. Isn't Mary special? I don't know. I think we're all special. And I believe that because it's not just a thing to say. Again, I could be doing this on my own, all by myself. I could even be talking to the interweb all on my own. What makes this interesting, at least for me, is the fact that I'm being joined by all of you, right? It's the combination of people coming together, our personalities, our quirks, our edges. That's life. That's interesting, right? I agree, B. Name is awesome. But yeah, it's everyone coming together. So Patrick's saying some are more special than others. I gently challenge that, Patrick. I think perhaps if there's people in our lives that we don't see with those, through that lens, maybe we're not looking at them close enough. Maybe we're not considering them as much as we could. Maybe the opportunity hasn't arisen yet for us to realize that about others, and I think probably more often than not to realize that about ourselves. It's a difficult thing to say to myself that I'm special. I have a very hard time. It's like accepting a compliment. Is that sticking? Yeah. It's hard to accept compliments. We learn how to ask for things. We get to a point where we can accept things, but compliments are hard. Hard ones. So I think we can all, including myself, learn a little bit more about receiving, accepting. Yeah. Each of us. We're special in our own ways. We're special, period. What should I do on this page, folks? And maybe it's okay not to be special too. What about that conversation? That's another element I've been struggling with in other aspects of my life, or many aspects of my life, is what's wrong with being mediocre? Is that a thing? It can be a thing. I think the desire to be something unique or special, each one of us is inherently. That's why we can continue writing stories, sharing stories, making art, even though it's made out of the same materials or the same formula or the same kind of archetypes, because each of us, everything, again, that we've lived through, that we've been through, that we've, how we see the world based on everything we've experienced, that is what makes the work we create unique. So that makes us unique. But at the same time, I don't know if that lifts any one person above another person. And I think sometimes I expect a lot of myself, and I can become very upset with myself because I'm not achieving the things I wanted to achieve, or I'm not doing the things I thought I might be doing at this time in my life. The truth is, maybe that's okay. Why? Why am I so upset? I'm okay, right? That gratitude again. I'm okay. I'm okay. Cheers to just being okay. Uniquely mediocre. Uniquely okay. I love that people are talking about their names now in the chat. I love it. Do I want to do this? Yeah, why not? Live dangerously, Mary. I don't know if anyone out there has ever fallen in love with like a piece of paper or a piece of fabric or something like that, or just something that you might be making with or wanting to make with one day, and then you fall in love with it so much that you're scared to use it. I definitely, I fall into that category all the time. And then that's how clutter happens in my house. Everything is precious. Don't want to throw anything away. Everything has potential. Now this is a moment in my life where I'm going to be thinking about what would Laura do? Let's see. What would Laura Brown do here? And I love Laura, you're okay with being average? Excellent. Yeah, just happy to be happy. Whew. And would be saying that happens to you, do you mean the expectations put it upon yourself, or hoarding the things that are lovely and you don't know what to do with and you think you're going to use them, but then you don't use them? Yeah, favorite paper. Every artist, especially visual artists I know, each and every one of them seems to have a stash of like some kind of tool or medium, or paper is a big one with visual artists who work with hand skills. I noticed that paper is something that people can collect, maybe unintentionally. I'm just going to stitch this in here, guys. I'm just going to do this. I wanted to glue it in, but then I was like, no. I should have done this from the beginning. Should have. It's happening. Out with the shoulds. There's something about that paper. Everyone, you find it, because paper can be really expensive as well. Oh, Carlos. Hello, Carlos. Interesting. Carlos, I believe that even we're talking about mediocrity here. We will return to materials in a second, but even the term mediocre is more a societal constraint. For me, we can be spectacular just by doing something as simple as rising out of bed and facing a day, in whatever way that may be. We're a beautiful, melting sea, more, it's not what Carlos said, I just need to click on it. We're a beautiful melting pot of special in our own way. And that in itself is beautiful, from my perspective at least. No, you're not rambling, Carlos. I love it. Please feel free to ramble as much or as little as you'd like. Yeah. Carlos. Yes. And then back to materials. Kristen has a whole box of magazine clippings I saved for special projects and collages, but it's become a piece of art in itself. Yep, I can relate to that. Absolutely. Yes. I have a few magazines that over time I found or collected, and I love the images in them so much that I haven't had the heart to chop them up yet. But I'm not reading them. I don't know what else I'm going to do with them, right? Yeah, wrecking the perfection of a blank page for journals or fabric, I guess I imagine with cross stitch or needlepoint, you probably see that too. Just that first stitch or that first mark or whatever it might be. Oh, yeah, all the potential that is there. That's why the wreck this journal trend. I know Tiffany was talking about it last week. Those things can be really helpful. Or if anyone, for those folks out there in the community who might remember Barb Nash, someone who came to the studio in the early days. Barb, like a beautiful artist, fantastic human. She taught me the trick of, if you're looking at a journal or a blank page in a sketchbook and you're a little bit nervous and you don't know what to do, just scribble on it or crinkle it up and give it an extra, like, additional texture. And suddenly it's not as intimidating as it was. Suddenly there's permission to make your mark without having to be, I suppose, as perfect as the material that's in front of you. Is that what that is? Yeah. Oh, and then, oh, what an interesting, okay. Going back to Christine, I have to see this. In defense, let's see. And defense of being average. Mark Manson's defense of being average piece. He makes a point that average isn't really real when we think about it, and that the best things in life are mediocre and mundane, which is really interesting. Again, that kind of revisits the conversation we were having earlier about simple pleasures and being able to appreciate those pleasures, which is so often to do with noticing them when they arise. You can't always, well, perhaps you can create those moments, but I think more often than not, they happen to us. And being in a place where you can take the time or the moment to appreciate them when they happen is beautiful, right? The simple things, the little things. Being able to appreciate what we have. And if anyone out there is like me, you might have a huge, it's not huge. I have, well, no, my very first job was at Fabricland. So from the age of 13, I've been kind of collecting fabric. That's my thing. That's my, oh boy, I'll need someone to help me go through that fabric. It's an emotional journey. There's so much I want to use. Laura was saying that you can give away fabric, that you have a lot of fabric, and you always find, Laura especially finds interesting fabric. But yeah, paper, for some artists, paper is the thing. Holding on to that paper. Oh, wow. And Emily, so Laura's daughter Emily, stitched a paper heart thing this week. I would love to see that paper heart thing. If you feel up to it, if you want to, if you want to share a picture in the thread, I'd love to see it. Emily is such a fantastic and fearless creator. I don't know if she's always fearless. I mean, each one of us, like we were just talking about, we have our moments, right? But I feel really privileged to have known Emily for a long time, since she was very young. And I imagine you've seen, being able to witness her creative journey from the perspective of a mother, that's an amazing thing. I do have another part of me that says, what would Emily do in moments? Because Emily's got a lot of sass that I admire. The materials we're hesitant to use. Be with a, did you say golden? A gorgeous gold threaded cross stitch fabric. Yeah, sometimes it is just about finding the right project for something, which is why I guess it's okay to, if you have something you really love, like these papers. I mean, I suppose there's a wonderful trusting the process in that way, trusting that if you're really hesitant or cautious about using something, maybe it's just not the right time. So many artists that have come before us, they, again, taking time to create. Again, a privilege for those of us who have time, who don't have to do 3 or 4 jobs to get by. But when you do have the time, being able to take that time and not feel pressured to use things right away. What a beautiful thing, right? And Prin, hello Prin, how are you? Welcome. How are things doing way over yonder where you are? One day, yeah, there's so many people I feel I'm beginning to know, and we're going to have another kind of hangout too where we can, I don't know, we'll figure it out. Sorry, inner monologue doesn't always need to be shared with everyone at the studio. Inner monologues, they're inner, Mary. Just keep them inside. Jeez. Essentially, there are people that I would love to meet and know more about, but it's there'll be time. There's time for all of that, right? Oh, back to the conversation about simple pleasures. Yes, let's go there. Sitting by a bonfire under the stars with your friends and family just hanging out. Christine? Yeah. Even hearing that, just hearing that, I can see it. I can even feel it. I can smell the like the bonfire. That's a beautiful thing. I don't know if I've been around a bonfire in years. I haven't been around a bonfire in forever. Ah, Prin. Oh, that's good. Thank you. Just cool doodling. Haven't done anything in a while, so I'm just going with it and not overthinking what I'm drawing. Welcome. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for, it's kind of like it's always lovely to hear that other people might experience the same challenges that you do. Not that it's a challenge, but I'm super, super good about overthinking things. If there was a job, no, what am I saying? I don't want another job. I like this job, guys. I'm just going to hang out with you here forever. That's what I like. Let's see. But the overthinking thing? Yeah. I'm trying to teach myself just to be a little, talk back to that a little bit more these days. And I think, again, like a great reminder for me is just being able to realize there's not much, do what you can with what you have. And you can't always, there's sometimes the overthinking just, generally speaking, the overthinking, at least for myself, stumps me, gets me caught up, and I never actually do the thing I wanted to do in the first place. Revisiting that conversation with Christine, the finished, not perfect video. Yeah, finished, not perfect. Oh, Bryn. Oh, sessions and also, go. Compliments coming my way. Hold on, I got to practice this. Lori Nancy Kalamansky also taught me this. Hold on, wait for it. And Claire too. Thank you. Sometimes I just have to force my face to say that, to practice accepting. The practice of accepting, that's involved in gratitude as well, isn't it? Isn't it? Thank you. And thank you, Lori Nancy, for saying my book is looking awesome. I can't believe that I'm creating a book. My gosh, it's happening, guys. What will I put in this book? I don't know. I was thinking originally of pictures, just things, bits and pieces of random glue glob. Speaking of random, like just simple images, simple things that I liked, shapes that I liked, words that I liked, things. Oh, look at how beautiful that is on the back. Yeah, maybe I'll keep that. I'll just glue the top so I can flip that up when I want to. Yeah, I think allowing for that simplicity is something I'm really practicing. I'm doing my best, guys. Doing my best. Oh. And Shelley. Wow, thank you for saying that. Yeah, Shelley was just saying that she was a little too anxious to come to the studio, the 149 Simcoe Street South studio, but seeing you on Wednesdays helps me to know it's safe. Wow. Shelley, that means a lot. Thank you for saying that. Now, safety is one thing. We got your back at the studio. We got everyone's back. But sometimes safe doesn't always mean easy. Sometimes there's some fabulously awkward moments. So I always like to layer that in for people because I think everyone's idea of safety is something different, and that's okay. But sometimes for some people, safety is about not having awkward moments or not feeling uncomfortable. When for me, at least in my own journey, just speaking for myself, safety comes from being able to and knowing that I can kind of live through uncomfortable moments and awkward moments, and sometimes even use them to create new opportunities. Oh, whoa. Oh, look at all these lovely comments. Let's see. But you're welcome anytime. You're welcome here, always. Everyone's welcome. And, you know, when the studio comes back, at the studio space itself, how it comes back, whatever form it comes back in, you're always welcome there. Always. And if, you know what, maybe there might always be a bit of anxiety, maybe it'll always be a little hard to come out. You're the boss of you. Do what feels right. There's no gold medal for making it out to the studio. There are pom-poms, and there is glitter, copious amounts of glitter. Even if you don't know, you may not go near the glitter, Shelley, but you'll still leave with glitter on you. I'm still finding glitter on me here at home. I have no glitter in the house. I'm still finding it. Glitter mystery. And Patrick's saying, I'm a published writer. Yeah, I suppose I am. Yeah. I love writing. I haven't written a whole lot in a long, long time. I'm working on a few things. I think that one of my alter egos, that's perhaps some of the, I have so many aspects of myself that I want to keep exploring. I want to do all the creative things, you know? But writing to me has always been something I've been attracted to. I like the idea of sinking into something and having something at the end of it to show, which I think is maybe that comes from being an actor, and it's such an interesting thing. It's present in the moment and then it goes away. Even when you do a film project, it's there and it goes away, and it's not really what you did when it comes back to you. It's been through so many other hands, which is amazing. It's a collaboration, right? Easier said than done, accepting that compliment. Thank you, Laurie Nancy, for backing me up there. It is true. Easier said than done. And Patrick, yeah, because you have a blog. Can you share your blog here so that folks can go and appreciate it? In that way, like, we can share the work that we do here. Please don't be shy to, if you've got a project you're working on or something that you're passionate about and you want to get the word out, you want to share it with other people, you are more than welcome to do so here through the Facebook page or during these conversations and chats. I think sometimes as artists we feel, I don't know if it's the same. I was going to make a huge generalization about Canadian artists, because sometimes we can be quite not shy about what we do, but a large part of at least the North American normal, again, that I was brought up with was don't be proud, don't be vain, don't show off. So sometimes we have a difficult time talking about what we do, even if we want to talk about it because we love it. And if anyone else feels at all that way, but is secretly really excited about something, please share it. Let's use this time to connect and spread the word about what we do. All of the creative things that we do. And you know what? We'll learn, we'll have more resources, we'll have more communities we can connect with online, as well as hopefully like in person as well. All right, so you're right, everybody. Kristen, thank you for the reminder. Off to soak up to some sun. Enjoy. Wishing everyone has a beautifully mediocre day night. Thanks for joining us, Kristen. And it is approaching 3:30. And I have to be careful, folks, because I could, and I think I will continue working on this after our little pop-up hive has wrapped up for the day. Because I can't stop now, guys. I'm so close. But it is approaching 3:30. Oh, a living room story. Is this a living room story? BB says, I once found a whole bunch of glitter stuck inside your socks after being at the studio. You were wearing your boots and covered up to your knees. And still there was glitter. That's the living room for you. So I don't know if people are missing that or not right now while the studio is closed. If you are missing that, let me know. Maybe I can mail you some glitter, some loose threads, some tangled up embroidery thread maybe. What else do we have? Some beads that were found in the corner of the studio floor. Um, if you're missing that, just let me know. We can share some of that with folks so you can create your own living room experience at home. Guys, thank you so much for joining me here today. I appreciate you more than you know. And I appreciate this time so very much. It gives me so much. I hope it gives everyone else something as well. And again, we're hoping to bring you more. We have that video that will be shared with you, I think, tomorrow morning. Look out for it then. Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Patrick. Lovely. He shared his blog, so folks, if you want to go check that out, please feel free. And I will post about this final project that I keep working about. I will, Laurie Nancy, I promise. Laura's just shouted out glitter bombs, but B does not miss the glitter. You love untangling string? Really? Really? That's what makes you such an excellent resource for the Studio B. You've said that out loud publicly now. The dangerous thing, dangerous thing. And Patrick, I'm glad that it's so calming. I'm glad that we can come together and find this little bubble of creativity and community together. Guys, please take care of yourselves. Keep on creating and taking care of yourselves. Share pictures of what you're creating if you like in this thread. You can also continue chatting once this is over. There's nothing stopping us from continuing the conversation online on the Facebook page. But if you need to go and take care of yourself, you totally can. For all the folks who were listening or watching without chatting, that's okay too. I appreciate you being here as well. For all the folks who will watch later on after this has finished being live, I welcome you too. I'm so glad that you had a chance to sit down and share some of this time with us. Even though it wasn't live, that's okay. I'm so glad that everyone came today. I'm so happy that everyone was taking care of themselves. And today it feels really hard to say goodbye for some reason, but I guess I gotta. So again, until we can connect and create with one another in person, I look forward to connecting and creating with everyone online. Thank you all for being amazing. Stay safe, take care of yourselves, be kind, and see you soon. Mwah. How do I? Oh, there it goes. How long have I been doing this stuff? Bye, everyone.